there's an enormous number of sightings where there's missing time involved, where people don't remember what happened to them directly after this 2 or 3 hour gap in their life. So this is typical of abductees.
So at that time, he just explained that abduction, was when they come and they would take these people and they do things to them.
And they sometimes return from abduction events with unusual marks and scars and bruises on their body. But the key word here is scars. They return with fully formed scars that were not there the day before. And that is biologically impossible.
And I said, well, some of that's starting to make sense now, because I would wake up and I would have certain marks on my body. And he said, well, some people who claim they've been abducted have what we call a scoop mark. So it can be on your leg or somewhere else on your body. Since I was a child, I've had a mark on my leg. I don't know where it came from. I mean, I never really understood what was going on. I went and saw a doctor, and I asked him to check it out to tell me what he thought it was. He didn't really come up with a specific answer.
Was the unexplained mark evidence of an abduction experience?
Well, definitely you question yourself. I never have taken any drugs. I didn't drink. I still don't. You feel absolutely and totally alone because you don't know who's going to believe you. I mean, if I was listening to someone else at that time, I would have said, I don't know if I should believe this.
Over the next few weeks, Corina tried to put the sighting behind her.
I had put the children to bed and I went to bed myself, and I just, closed my eyes. What I saw literally was this being, about 3 feet tall, I guess, pear-shaped head, kind of grayish color. I felt terrified. There was a feeling, a sense that I'd seen him before, but wasn't positive. So I would see its image, like it would be there, and then its image would appear in front of it, and in front of it, and in front of it. So I don't know how else to describe them. It was kind of floating into her room. It's here, it's got to be here. I saw it come in here. But there was nothing, and my daughter was asleep. So I thought, oh boy, here we go. I've had a bad dream. I seriously thought of putting myself in a psych ward. It's when those things happen. First thing I think of is my children. How can I protect them? How can I stop all this? On a mental, emotional, and spiritual level, you begin to question everything. I was brought up Catholic. So there's God, there's this, there's that, and then all of a sudden, well, who are we? Where are we really from? Who are these beings, and what is it all about? Why are we here? And then you feel absolutely and totally alone.
Dr. Caleb Scharf runs the Astrobiology Center at Columbia University, looking for clues as to whether there's life beyond Earth.
We are trying very, very hard in modern science today to find out whether or not we are genuinely alone in our solar system or alone in the universe as a whole. So until very recently, we just didn't know for sure that there were other planets around other stars. With modern technology, we've been able to eke out the signatures of planets around other stars. The fact that there are so many planets out there is quite surprising, because it means that planets form incredibly efficiently in this galaxy and probably in the universe as a whole. And that means that the opportunity for there to be planets a bit like the Earth or somehow similar enough to harbor life goes up enormously.
I think we're sitting at 763 confirmed planets and more than 2,000 candidate planets.
Our galaxy is packed with planets. There are more planets than stars. We didn't know that a few years ago. And among those planets are a huge number of smaller planets that may be rocky, terrestrial-like planets, a bit like the Earth. The Goldilocks zone, which is sometimes called the habitable zone, is the region around a star where if you placed a planet like the Earth, it has the possibility of having a surface temperature somewhere between the freezing point and the boiling point of water. In other words, it's at the right distance from the star to be kept at a nice temperature. And the reason we're so interested in a planet that can have liquid water on its surface is that life can't exist without water in a liquid form. If you think about Earth, all the oxygen that we breathe essentially comes from plants and microorganisms. And a lot of the chemistry of our planet has been determined over 4 billion years of evolution by the microbial organisms living here. So when we look at alien worlds, what we're really looking for are the signatures of that kind of life. We're looking for environmental clues that life is playing a role in what happens on the surface of that planet. Obviously, we make a lot of assumptions when we talk about things like the Goldilocks zone and the need for water, because we're assuming that life out there is somehow like life here. Is that right? We don't know, is the real answer. But we need to start somewhere, and the best way to begin is to use what you know as a template in the search for new things.
What's this?
Oh, that's the little white ghost.
A little white ghost?
Who are these beings, and what is it all about?
Well, he comes into my bedroom sometimes, and he scares me a little bit, but he doesn't hurt me.
Sweetie, who's that?
And then my daughter says, I don't like the pumpkin head man. Well, he said that he's the doctor.
The doctor?
Yeah.
I'm really scared of him because he hurts me.
He scares me a little bit. Oh, that's the doctor. That's the doctor. That's the doctor.
After discovering her daughter had been painting disturbing images, Corina Saebels was convinced that something had been visiting her daughter's room in Aldergrove, British Columbia.
Our perception of aliens in writing, in film, and television is all governed by our perception of ourselves. And so we try to have wild extrapolations, but really we can't because we have only one example of complex life here on Earth.
Alien life may not look so different from us. It may have 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and so on, because that is a natural solution to the problem of having a functioning organism.
Life has to subscribe to the same rules that govern us here. The laws of physics, the laws of chemistry and biochemistry and so on. But how they manifest themselves, you know, how you go from simple organisms to complex organisms, it seems logical to us based on what we know about life here. We're saying, okay, you know, well, they've got to have like 2 eyes and stereoscopic vision. They should have 2 legs to balance themselves, you know, or whatever. But who knows?
The other side of the coin is that evolution is a much more random process, in which case there could be alien life out there that has no resemblance to us whatsoever, but it senses things, it moves, it thinks, but it does it in a very, very different way. That too is a valid viewpoint. We just don't know yet which way it's going to go.
Every time that we have had the capability of looking at the universe in different ways, to open our eyes to new regions of wavelength in the electromagnetic spectrum, or new time scales, or new distances, we've been surprised.
Oh, that's the little white ghost.
When my daughter ended up telling me about the doctor, it definitely brought me back to what really happened in Alder Grove. And all of a sudden, all these pieces of the puzzle were being put together. I remember being taken up in a very, very large ship, for lack of a better word. It was a gigantic room, and it was round. It wasn't lit very well. It was subdued lighting. It had a strange smell in the air, very cold. And I would just be placed on this stainless steel table. All of a sudden, to my left, this tall being with very bony structure started approaching me. He had a huge head, and it was kind of like lots of bone structure to his head. Large, black, almond-shaped eyes, slits for a mouth, no nose to speak of, no ears, very scrawny little body. And I remember feeling terrified. He didn't say it with his lips, I just heard in my mind. He said, "I'm the doctor." It was almost like, what's he going to do to me?
Dr. David Jacobs has spent 25 years researching abduction events.
A typical abduction event is a person is taken out of their normal environment. They're then placed on this table, and they have an examination of sorts. And I say of sorts because it's not a normal kind of examination. Routinely, sperm is taken and eggs are harvested.
There was another room that was there, and in this particular place, you could see hundreds of what looked like aquariums. And all these fetuses were in them. And I remember thinking, oh my God, and realized that they're coming, implanting women, and then they come back and they remove fetuses from us.
And this is what virtually all women say. And the goal is the production of these hybrid human-looking beings, cross between alien and human.
It all became very clear what was going on.